Hi, this is a quick ad hoc screencast to go over how to configure for and process an ANT 256 channel recording. This is the initial configuration that applies 1020 and some of the 1010 positions along the temporal chain. Just as an initial test of this, and everything looks good, then of course the rest of those can be populated, and you'll see how as we go forward. So let's go ahead and get started. Open up a recording. And to do that, I'm just going to launch persist. Now you can use the database if it's configured and so forth, but just in this little environment where I'm testing some stuff, I'm just going to drag this recording onto persist. It knows that TRC is a micromed file format and lots of channels there. Let's go ahead and zoom in and see what we have. Go down to 48, we can go to 32 channels, zoom in a little bit more. And all these have channels that use a convention that describe the position on the net, but they're not 1020 or 1010. So what do? Fortunately, you can. There are some ways where you can look at how do they line up with 1020 and 1010 positions, and for the purposes of creating detection and training montages, if you can approximate that very closely, then the algorithms and the for artifact reduction, detection, and training and so forth, they'll do fine. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Now, as part of changing the channel map, generally we don't want to be showing trends because we want to see what happens to the waveforms, or even a split screen because, well, you can see there's question marks here. It's looking for those channel labels and persist can see them. So rather than pulling the rug out from under the trends, as we say, by switching its channel labels, in this version that can cause the program to close because we're essentially pulling the rug out from under the trends. Let's go ahead and show just the EEG waveforms, and then we'll change the labels. And normally that's not something you would do in day-to-day use, but in cases where you don't have a channel map or you need to apply one after the fact, there's a provision in persist to do that using recorded headbox channels. What does that mean? Well, every recording includes a channel map, and so these Z1L, Z2L, this convention here, like any other recording, is channel 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to the end 255, 256, and each one has an input label. We're going to change those labels. So this has already been built. I just put this together based on some information that was sent over to me from Laurent over at Geneva, and I'm going to pick this configuration, and you can see some of these have 1020 and 1010 labels in there. So when I click apply, we'll see some of these channel labels change. The stamp in the bottom right for the electrostatus display fills in, and that's set up for 1020. There are additional positions again. So now we can zoom back out, or we can page up and down to look at the rest of the inputs. Let's go ahead and just show all the channels. So instead of 32, I'm going to go back to all, and I'm going to switch to a montage that already built for this, and we're going to pick the ANT-ST amp reference. And so that's already been configured. And to process this, we're going to go ahead and click Preferences, Trend Preferences, Open. Let's go ahead and open that definitions file for the trends. Trend P14, ANT 256 1020 ST for subtemporal, because again, I haven't populated the rest of the 1010 positions. We've done the 1020 plus the subtemporal 1010 positions, and a couple of changes on left and right. Now, one of the things just we'll take a peek at is under calculation engines. This has already been set. You don't have to change it, but for spike density, this is where we've changed the montage to show, instead of default, it's using the spike detection only. I labeled that montage that because we don't want to modify that. And so this montage has been saved on this instance, ANT's ST spike detection only, and it's an average 12 reference. It doesn't include EKG because we don't want to run spike detection on an EKG channel, and this includes just the channels that we're going to perform spike detection on. And so this one typically wouldn't be modified unless we were adding additional 1010 or 1020 positions to it. Now there's a duplicate of this montage I've created called ANT-ST AV12. Normally you wouldn't put your detection montages in your montage favorites, but I have it there so I can get to it easy. So what about montage favorites? Well, there's other montages here. I started with a EGI configuration for the various EGI nets up to 256 channels, and those include 1010 montages in there as well. So when we go to montage favorites, we can change this up. So let's say I don't want to have this in my favorites, so I don't inadvertently modify it. I have a duplicate of it here, and we'll put it in a 1010 montage as well. So now it doesn't show up anymore here, and I can look at a 1010 montage. Now this montage includes all the 1010 positions, but this recording doesn't have all the 1010 positions modified. And so there's some gaps along the way. All it means is that if a channel exists in a montage, but it's not part of the recording, it won't show it. So this is just to get started again with the 1020 positions and some 1010 subtemporal chains. And now we can go ahead and process. So again, just to go back through this, we've applied our channel map, we go to trend preferences, we've picked our trend settings file, the trend P14 ANT2561020ST.mmx. Once I've selected it, I just click process and it goes. So the steps are open the file, apply the channel map, select the MMX file, and process. 4 steps. Now, while this is processing, I want to show a couple of other things. One is how I put those montages in. So I went ahead and programmed those in. I'll show that. But if you've already got some custom montages and you don't want to overwrite your existing montages, you can open up the montage file in Notepad and paste montages from another persist file into this. And I'll show how to get there. Program data is a hidden folder in Windows, so I'm just going to type it in. You could also show it by showing the hidden items. So there's that, program data. Go into persist, and there's our PS montage templates.xml. I'm going to open this with Notepad. And of course, this already has the montages in it, but I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And the montages are readable. The format isn't too cryptic. There's the channel name and the definition. So you can have a label and the definition of the input. So let's say you have X31 and X32 and you wanted to label it EKG1 and EKG2. That's why it's listed twice. But without getting too much into that, the important thing here is there's a closed tag template and a closed tag templates. So this is where you would copy montages out of another file, a persist montage file, and paste them between these last two. So to do that, what we would do is we'd copy this from the template name all the way down to the closed template. Say we're doing that from the other file. And then we'd paste it in between these two. So this new montage, I'll just put in a space here so it's easy to see. The new montage would start at template name and end with /template. That's what says this is the start of the montage with the name, and this is the end of the montage. That's the end of the template. So then the tag here says, well, that's the end of these montage templates altogether. So this is where you paste things in. Happy to connect if there's any questions about that. But if you don't want to replace your set of montages, you can paste them in to your existing one doing that. And I'm going to undo my changes. I just deleted that stuff that I pasted in there. I'm going to close this and say I don't want to save any changes to that. And there we have it. Now the other files that I pasted in here, after doing that, here's the trend MMX file. Here's the montage file. And the PSUNK dat.ini file, that one, this one up top, that's where those channel maps are. That I can apply channel maps to a recording after the fact. So in fact, if we edit this, you can see it lists the channel maps that are available. There's the new one I put in. And if we scroll down to the bottom here, without going too far afield, there it is. There's the ANT256 channel map. So when I apply one, it's pulling it out of this file. That's why it goes in here. So there's the PSUNK, the PS unknown data file. Montage templates. This is that MMX file that I had. And PS Topo actually is for topographic mapping. And this one includes some 1010 maps. You may or may not use that, but it's included in that collection of files that I've have for this. So let's go ahead and close this. Let's go back to the persist instance that's running. And there it is. So it's running along. we'll go ahead and pause it for a moment. And we'll get into some of the, just the montage items that will help you as you're building montages if you want to add additional ones. Again, with that being said, I'll go ahead and I'll populate some of the rest of the 10-10 positions here, the frontal central parietal positions. That will flesh that out. But this configuration will certainly work to get started. The spike detection should work great. Artifact reduction, again, on those channels that are labeled, it should work. It should work fine. So let's go ahead and go back to the EEG. And you can quit the video here if you've got what you need. I'm just going to show some montage shortcuts. I can save you a lot of time in creating montages for this. We'll go back to recorded, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the channels per page, drop this down a bit, and I'll go to 32 just so it shows up better in the video. Now I'm going to right click on one of these, and one of the menus I have is to select a subset. I'm going to select 1020. That actually selects all 1010 and 1020 channels. And so it's put a box around these and left the other ones unselected. I can right click and I'm going to select invert so that all the channels that aren't 1010 or 1020 are boxed. And I'm going to right click on one of the boxed ones and I'm going to delete selected. So now I'll go ahead and select it back to all. So I'm showing all the channels. These are all the inputs that have those 1010 labels. So without having to hunt and peck and select and all that, I can use the menu to select a subset, invert that selection, delete them, and I've got this. So what do I do with this now? Well, I can save this. So I can right click, save montage, and give it a different name. Recorded is always the raw input montage. That's what's being written to disk. It shows you everything with whatever label it happens to have, or in this case, the labels that we've applied. And so I might call this ANT amp ref. Actually, I've already done this, so I'm going to cancel that. If I save it, oh, there it is, ANT ST amp ref. So that's this one. Now I want to create an average 12 montage because the persist spike detector, its primary detection montage is using an average 12. So I'm going to select all, and I'm going to right click on one of these, change reference, and go to average 12. So now I've got a spike detection montage, and we'll save this. Well, I've already done that. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you the one I saved, which is the other montages, and we're going to go to ANT-ST spike detection only. So it's not my favorites. Why? Well, I don't want to change this montage inadvertently for review. A lot of times you want to add, let's say, an EKG channel. Well, we don't want to add that to spike detection because that's a lot of spike detections in an EKG channel if we tell it to scan that, right? So instead of doing that, well, I just saved it as and saved it as. So if I right click, save montage, and give it a different name, well, what did I do? It's the same montage, but it's just called ANT-ST for subtemporal average 12. Now the 1010 montages will work too. So when I go over here, I've got some 1010 because this is the P14 configuration for 1010 as my base. And I can pick any one of these. But again, if I pick the 1010 long AV12, it shows the channels that it has. So we've got the 1020, we've got the 1010 subtemporal chains, but it doesn't include the 1010 positions for frontal, central, and parietal. Adding those to the channel map allow those to appear. And once we know that this is working fine, we haven't missed anything, then we'll go in and flesh out the rest of those inputs. It's the old saying, measure twice, cut once. And so that's what we're doing in this case, is seeing how it works. Well, let's see what it's doing. So if we split the screen, we go ahead and look at this. I stopped the processing. Once you go into Spike Review, it hasn't picked anything up yet. We can just go ahead and let that finish. But we're not going to let the video crank away while we're doing that. Go ahead and run some files, see how they process, and based on that, we can go ahead and flesh out the rest of those positions. This is Michael Guest, VP Research and Clinical Applications for Persist. Hope the rest of your day goes well. Thank you.